to episode 2 of A Nightbird. I'm Claire, and thank you so much for watching. It's not been so long since I posted my last episode, but so much has happened in that time, and it's been so lovely to hear from a lot of you. It's wonderful how many people have joined the group. And yes, I'm very excited and happy about the whole thing. It's lovely to be doing this, to be talking about the things that I love doing, and talking and sharing that with a lot of you as well. So February is here now, and yeah, it's a busy month because there are a lot of birthdays in this month. A lot of people I know have birthdays, but in particular, Hendrik has a birthday on the 11th, and I am making something special for him. Well, when I say special, it's something that he will find special, something that he wants. I think he knows what I'm making him, but I won't be showing it to you today because I know that he will watch this, and I want it to be a surprise when he opens it on his birthday. The other thing is Valentine's Day, which of course is only a few days after Hendrik's birthday. Now, Hendrik and I, we don't really tend to do anything big for Valentine's Day, for the main reason, not only because it's so soon after his birthday, but the main reason really is that, well, we both come from cultures where it was never really something really important to celebrate with your partner, the person that you're already with. I think historically, especially, I can only say for England really, but the way I was introduced to it was that it was sort of an old tradition. I'm not sure from which time, but I think it really dates back to, before, to sort of pagan times, where you would send an anonymous message or card or something or present to somebody that you're fond of. And I think that's a lovely idea. Although I thought I never actually have done that. I'm not sure why, but I have only I have only actually received 2 anonymous Valentine's cards in my life. But I still think it's really wonderful, and I remember those 2 times very well because, of course, I think for anyone it makes their day if they receive something from somebody, from a secret admirer. Yes, and I remember, the first time I was 7 years old and I was at school, and there was a boy in my class. His name was Gordon, I remember. So I don't think I knew who it was from when I received it, and I'm not sure how I found out, but I found out somehow that it was Gordon. And he drew me a picture of a house and with flowers and 2 people standing outside, which were meant to be me and him, which is really cute and something I really still remember to this day. I wish I still had it, but I don't know what I did with it. It's like with a lot of old things from my childhood, it's difficult to find a lot of it. I know my parents have a lot of old school things of mine, but I don't think it's among those. But I still have a very vivid memory of how this card looked, and yeah, I think that's really sweet. And the second time was when I was a teenager, and I received some roses from somebody, and I nobody ever confessed to that one. I had a feeling as to who they were from, but again, it was something really special. It doesn't even matter if you reciprocate those feelings. It's just nice to have such, and I think it's a fun tradition. So the reason I'm telling the stories is to encourage any single people out there. If you like somebody, then why not do that? Why not send them a handmade anonymous card? I think yeah, you'll make their day, and it's simple. And I think if you have the chance to do something simple which makes someone's day, then you should do it. Hendrik and I actually will also be sending each other anonymous cards, which is the tradition that we established when we got together. We told that first of all, he's from East Germany and they didn't have Valentine's Day at all. So he said, if you want to celebrate it and it's something special for you, you have to sort of teach me a bit about it. And that's when I said, well, you know what? We don't need to go out for a meal or buy each other presents or anything. How about we just send each other an anonymous card? And so that's what we do. Maybe it's a little bit silly, but it's fun. Maybe I'll show that to you as well. Maybe I'll post a picture of it. I'm making him a little card, and I'm not sure if he'll make one for me, but he'll send me one as well. I expect. I hope. So the only mystery would be if we received 2 anonymous cards, but that hasn't happened yet. Since last week, the weather has changed completely. It was freezing last time, and it was icy winds and snow, and now the sun is shining, it's 3 degrees, all the snow has completely melted, and sadly, Luca had his first snowman heartbreak. We built a snowman together on the balcony, which he loved and he wanted to see every day, and every few hours we had to go out and check on him. And he had blueberries for eyes, and we even made a little scarf for him, and he had a leaf for a hat, and he really loved him. And I think he was a bit disappointed when he saw the gradual process of him melting, and I think he understood that snowmen can only live when the snow is out. And I'm sure there will be more snow. I mean, there usually is in Berlin. But the weather has been really odd this year, really unexpected. So perhaps we won't get any more snow. But it's definitely been something really fun. Last year, I think he was a little bit too young to understand or to really notice the snow. And this year it's really been something special for him. So, but if it doesn't come back, then that will be fine, because it's also kind of very difficult to get around. So I'll show you what finished objects I have. I'm afraid I did not finish my shawl, but I finished my gloves, and by that I mean just the glove parts. As I said, it's been a lot warmer, so I finished these shortly after I posted last time. And I because it's been kind of warm, I haven't cast on the wraparounds yet. Because these are warm enough. They're really nice. This is really good yarn. I bought it in England. It's Rowan tweed. By the way, I have no idea why my camera turns things around. It doesn't matter until I show books or labels, but something I need to figure out. I really still want to make the wraparounds with these, but I would also like to kind of make a variety of them. That's the reason I made them in this neutral colour. And I have had a lot of suggestions from people, and one interesting one was to make a felted wraparound. And that was definitely a good idea for the temperatures that we were experiencing a couple of weeks ago. So we'll just see how the weather changes, but this one will definitely be on the needles very soon. I also finished Luca's mittens. So we both have a pair of gloves. Those are my 2 finished objects. He, I don't know if it's just because it's warm, but at first he really wore them, and he was really complaining before because he had these mittens that I knit him last year, and they weren't really very big. They weren't really big enough, and he was getting very cold hands. And now he's figured out how to bite these off. So he doesn't really keep them on for very long, and he bites one of them off, and then he's got the other hand free to take the other one off, and I'm kind of afraid of them getting lost. But maybe it's just because it's been a bit warm and he doesn't really need them. Maybe I think if it was the temperatures that we had before, he'd probably keep them on. But anyway, I really love the colour of that yarn. It's actually one that my mum bought me for Christmas a couple of years ago, and I decided that I want to make him a scarf from that as well. It will be like a triangular scarf that goes around the neck, because yeah, I think it's really mainly here where he tends to get cold. And to have a long scarf, I think, for a toddler is kind of cumbersome. And yeah, I have another ball of this yarn as well, so I'm not sure how much this will take and whether there'll be enough left over to make something else, like a hat. Maybe, I'm not sure if that's enough, but we'll see. It's nice. I mean, these are both like just improvised designs, which I enjoy. I love the idea of following patterns, and I want to get better at it. But I'm the kind of person who is not very good at following instructions, and I often get confused. But that's just, yeah, that's something that I need to get over, because there are so many lovely designs out there that I really want to knit. So I don't only want to design my own things. And of course, you only learn that way as well, with knitting things that other people have designed. That's how you can then go on to design your own things. But it's definitely something I really want to do in the future, is design my own things. It's more for me, I think. It's more something that I tend to, it's like with cooking. I've been doing it for such a long time now, ever since I was a child, that I tend to think it's easy, and I just, I never really follow recipes, and I just make things up. And I think that's a problem sometimes. When you've been doing something for a long time, you forget that other people might be beginners, and you can't even imagine what it's like to be a beginner. And one example I have is, there was a friend of mine that we were cooking together, and she actually told me that she had never really cooked before. It's not something that she learned as a child or anything, and she just wanted to make some basic pasta sauce. And I kind of told her the ingredients, sat down and let her get on with it, thinking, oh, anyone can cook pasta sauce. And so I remember that she cooked the tomatoes, and then she chopped up some onion and then just threw it in with the tomatoes, and then said, oh, you know, is this okay? And that's at the point where I thought, what, I'm a terrible teacher, because I just assumed that everybody knows that you should fry the onions first and so on. But if she said, as she did, she told me that she had never cooked before. Yeah, you have to get into the mind of someone who's really a beginner. And that's how I feel about knitting sometimes, is, of course, I'm not a beginner, but there are some things I haven't even tried yet. And I need to learn them in this way that someone tells me, as if I don't know anything, right from the beginning, how to do something. So that's how I'm doing things now. I'm kind of taking it step by step and trying not to get so frustrated with tackling a pattern that's too difficult for me. Which brings me on to my shawl, which I haven't finished. This actually isn't a difficult pattern, but it is a lace pattern, and I am just not experienced enough with lace. There are some parts of knitting that I've done a lot of, and some, you know, like lace. I love lace projects, but I think it's this following instructions problem that I have. It's really difficult for me to keep going without making a mistake. You know, I can be on a good run, which I was with this, and then I made a mistake on one row and I had to rip it back, and I didn't notice the mistake until a bit later, which is really crazy, because I was looking out for it. I was really trying to be on alert for possible mistakes, and yeah, it's difficult to spot them, I think, when you think that you're doing well. And so then I thought, you know what, forget the deadlines or anything. enjoy this knitting and only do it when you can concentrate. So I'm knitting one row at a time and then making sure that I've done it right. And then maybe taking a bit of a break to knit something else and then going back to it. Which means I probably still will be able to finish this by next month. It's quite, yeah, I've knit quite a lot of it. It's all bunched up on the needles at the moment, but I do need to do quite a bit more of the lace. But it's definitely doable. I'm watching, I finished watching Downton Abbey. I'm really sad that that's over now. Well, until, was it September or something, but that's just like ages away. But I started watching Called a Midwife, and yeah, it takes me about one episode to knit one row. So, okay, so there's also my socks. It's terrible, you know, that these are supposed to be family socks, and the boys are wearing theirs every evening, nice and cozy on the sofa, and I still haven't joined in because mine are not finished. I've knit maybe a few centimeters since I last spoke to you, but they're on my list to be definitely finished by next month. Which is one of the good things about doing a monthly podcast. I think that you'll see a lot more progress from me. Okay, I think the next thing, which I'm excited about, and I've only just cast on, are my gloves for my glove along, my first knit along, which I'm really happy that a few of you have joined. It is a glove along, so I didn't expect it to be hugely popular. Because I know a lot of people don't really want to knit gloves, or they don't wear gloves, they prefer mittens, but I will be accepting mittens. I prefer if you wanted to do gloves, because I don't know, just because I'm enthusiastic about gloves at the moment. Because, you know, it's like I said before about learning something new. I started to notice things as I was knitting the gloves, things that I never looked at before. You know, I've never made something for a hand, and you know, you have to look at the fact that the little finger starts lower down than the rest of the fingers. I know that may be obvious, but well, I don't know, it wasn't to me as I was going along. I was like, oh yeah, I didn't think of that, you know, that so the structure of a glove was kind of interesting to me. And I'm looking forward to doing my second pair. I think they'll go more smoothly than the first pair, because I was a little bit, because it was new. These are the Knotty gloves. I forget the designer, but I'll put it in the show notes. I'm not sure if you can see the colour very well of this yarn, but it's a lovely golden yellow. It's something that okay, when you first do something like a podcast, I'm sorry guys about the sound last time, that was terrible, and I really hope the sound is better this time. But you have to tweak things around at first, and perhaps, maybe the lighting as well. We'll see, I'll see when I watch it. But it is a gorgeous colour, and that's the thing I liked the most about it. It's alpaca. I bought it when I was on holiday in Denmark. And I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do with it then, so that's why I only bought a little bit of it, but it will be enough to make some gloves. And the last thing I wanted to talk about is, it's something that just came to me. It's kind of a coincidence. Well, before Christmas, I had this idea that in order to practice textures, lace, but not just lace, but just to get used to doing different patterns without tackling a huge project to do it, I thought washcloths are a great gift for people. They're also a good thing just to have in stash, you know, if you ever kind of want to just quickly give a gift to somebody. And it's also a quick knit as well. But the main reason I wanted to do them is just to practice doing different textures and to get used to yeah, to kind of how things work in that way, especially because that will help me to design things in the future, and also help me to follow patterns for larger projects. So I knit a few washcloths before Christmas and gave them to friends along with a little soap. And I really thought, that's something that I'd like to do throughout the year, and then possibly give them as birthday presents to people, or keep some of them for myself, but just a good way to practice without it just being a waste. And I have quite a lot of cotton in stash, so but yeah, I hadn't actually done any yet this year. And then someone from the group wrote to me, who's a designer. Her name is Deb Buckingham, and she's already written 2 pattern books all about dishcloths, with different designs, which is kind of exactly what I was looking for. So I've got a copy of her second book, and I really love every single pattern in this book. I have actually cast on. So first of all, I love the way the whole book is designed, and I like that the names of the different patterns. She's named each dishcloth a kind of classic, or maybe old-fashioned lady's name. For example, the Mildred, which is what I'm working on at the moment. Well, I've chosen the Mildred and the Ethel. Those are going to be my first projects, and the reason is because there was a lovely lady called Mildred who used to live next door to us when we were children, and I remember I remember doing exchanges with her on cakes that we were making. So she would bake some cakes and I would bake some cakes, and then we would give 6 to her and she would give 6 to us. You normally do 12. And yeah, she was a really nice old lady who lived next door, kind of a grandma figure. And so I thought I would do that one first. And that's how far I am so far. So I'm kind of halfway through. I'm using a lime green. Well, it's slightly olivey as well. It's not kind of citrus. And yeah, I only cast it on like this morning, so it's coming along really nicely. And I'm just looking forward. I probably do all of them. But also in the book, she comes with ideas that I hadn't thought of. For example, if there's a baby shower, you can sort of knit a few of them, maybe a little smaller, as kind of washcloths for a baby. You can also use them as actual kitchen dishcloths as well, which is something that I hadn't thought of. And my original idea was only just washcloth, face cloths. But these are actually kind of, most of them are, the idea behind them is actually for the kitchen, I think. And another idea is that you could actually do them all in wool and make a big blanket out of them, or a small blanket. But yeah, I really love every single one of those patterns, and I probably will just knit them all up. These ones, like this Mildred that I'm doing now, are going to be for my friend's birthday, and also the Ethel. I have 2 friends who have birthdays this month, so they will get this and a soap. And yeah, and it will hopefully be a surprise. I don't know if they'll be watching this, but that doesn't really matter. But also, she's giving away one of these pattern books to one of you guys. So I would recommend it to you if you also want to practice different textures. But anyway, just to make gifts or to make dishcloths for yourself, I thoroughly recommend it. But yes, I will make a thread for that, and one of you will win a copy of it. And it's not going to run for a whole month, so I'll announce the winner on my blog. And as soon as this episode goes out, I'll put a thread up for one of you guys to win that. So yes, thank you to Deb for that. That's really generous, and I really love this pattern book. It's and I'll post pictures of all the dishcloths that I make this month. Yeah, so that's all the knitting that I have. But there's one more thing, sort of yarn crafting related thing that I wanted to mention. I have a yarn which I love, which was very, very kindly gifted to me by Fondant Fibres. It's beautiful, and I hope so much that you can see how beautiful it is. And I really, really, I think I mentioned this last week, that I have some beautiful fabrics, some beautiful yarns, and I'm almost afraid to use them because I like them. I actually just love looking at it in the form that it's in now, and touching it and stroking it, and but I need to move on and actually knit something with this. But I just don't know what. I don't know what would really show it off, and I don't really want to knit a hat or a scarf or gloves out of it. So that kind of rules a lot of things out, doesn't it? So I just wondered if maybe you guys had any ideas. It's kind of like a knitting group. If I was a member of a knitting group, I'd probably take it along and ask them. But yeah, I don't go to knitting groups. I don't think 2-year-olds are really a good thing, because they tend to kind of run riot and wrap themselves in yarn and so on. So you guys are my knitting group. So I'll post a picture of it, because I'm not sure if that really shows it off fully. And if you have any suggestions, that would be wonderful, and I can have a good think about what I want to knit with that. Okay, a lot of people have asked me, so on to sort of other things that I'm working on. A lot of people have asked me about patchwork, and I can talk about it. There's so much to talk about with patchwork. Yeah, because some people are more experienced. Some people have written to me saying that they're beginners. And so I thought I would start with that, because I'm actually not a hugely experienced quilter. I just love quilts. And because of that, I tend to always have some kind of quilting project on the go. And this quilting group that I'm a member of is really fun as well. And I would recommend that as well if you're a beginner, something like where you get together with other people who are of varying experience, It depends. You see, I don't mind. I like things that are slightly imperfect. I don't need everything to be made, it really doesn't bother me that there are people in this quilting group who are beginners, and that in the end I'll get 9 squares, and some of them will be at the standard of a beginner, and some of them will be at the standard of somebody who's been quilting for 20 years. I love that about it, and I will most certainly include all of the squares in the blanket with all their perfections and imperfections included. I want to show you what the first thing I ever quilted, because that is far from perfect, but I still love it. This is when Luca was a tiny baby, and I think the mistake I made here is that I did not seek any help from anybody, and I just thought I could do it myself. And I got square paper. I coded each of the fabrics that I wanted to put in. So I kind of chose yellow for this one, and then I kind of just coloured in these squares, and I made something, because I wanted to. In the middle, there's an L. For Luca. But when I say, I feel like I'm apologizing for this blanket, I absolutely love it. But um, it's not done to a high stand. It's not. If you looked up close, you'd see that there are stitches in some places, and there are even bits that you can probably poke your little finger through, and they don't really. And now it's he doesn't really use it. It's a bit small now. It was really for a baby, but I'm not. I wouldn't recommend improvising your own design for the first time you ever quilt, unless you're happy with something that's not really perfect. But it was kind of frustrating, and I think it's unnecessary to start with such a project. If you like normal patchwork and not without quilting, I would start with that. I love patchwork, and the first thing so that was the first thing I quilted, and I didn't even think about doing designs on it or anything like that. I've since learned a lot more about different ways you can quilt things, and that you can do circular designs on some things, and that you can mix it on one quilt as well. I didn't really think of that with that one, and I kind of went along some lines and so on. But before that, I did just plain patchwork, and I think that's a good way to start, because quilting is something which takes a lot of time, and I like to think of it as an ongoing project. I've never made a quick quilt, so I'm not really waiting for any of my quilts to. I kind of let them go on for months or maybe even a year. But this I did in a couple of days. This was just plain patchwork, and I use it now in Luca's room, and it's really big, so I can't show you all of it. But it's just squares, and I used a template, and I cut out squares of all the same size, and I used all my leftover scraps. And two of those, which are in this, this one and this one are both vintage fabrics that I found. One of them was a pillowcase, an old pillowcase that I found in an old charity shop, and the other one was the back of a blanket that I also found in a charity store. This blanket actually had holes in it on the other side and wasn't really very nice, and that's one of the things that I wanted to talk about, is about finding fabrics. Don't overlook things that have stains on them or holes in them and so on. If you're out at a charity shop and you think, oh, that's a shame, this is like worn away in one place. If you're going to use it for patchwork, those kind of things are wonderful. And it's really nice to rescue something like that, I think, and use some of it in your patchwork. And I would just say to start with, to make something like this with just squares is a really good way to practice, so that then you kind of get used to just putting the squares together. And then if you want to, I never quilted this. I don't know. I mean, I could even do it now, but I kind of don't think it needs quilting. I'm happy with it the way it is, and I've got so many other quilting projects on the go, because I don't want to go on about quilting too much in one episode. So I also want to talk a lot more about where to find nice fabrics. We're very lucky here because, again, I always say that about Berlin, but it's multicultural. There are different quarters of Berlin which are sort of famous for different things, and I find that, so we have quite a big Turkish community here, and there's a Turkish market that takes place 2 times a week, usually in the summer. I haven't been for a while. I think maybe it is only in the summer, I'm not sure. And I tend to get a lot of my fabrics from there because it's reasonably priced, and you find things that you wouldn't find in regular stores. So if any of you live in sort of more kind of cosmopolitan areas, I would really check out the kind of different cultures and what kind of thing they have to offer there. There also may be stores. I know back in England there are a lot of sort of Indian silk stores and so on it's worth looking in these types of places to see what they have to offer, and it might be something quite different, something that you wouldn't normally find in a normal high street store. Not to say that you don't get some wonderful things in these department stores. I get a lot of my fabrics from there too, and my favourite shop for buying fabrics here is a place which is just around the corner, and I want to actually go and talk to them because I'm not sure where they get their fabrics from, and I'm sure that they must sort of import some of them from America. And I could also really find out like what the main suppliers are. That then perhaps that might help you guys out. But the main thing is to look for little treasures. I think to go looking in charity shops and flea markets, and to really, not dismiss something that maybe looks a little old or something. I think most things can really be rescued in some way. So aside from the projects I'm doing for Hendrik with his birthday, there's only one other thing that I've really been working on, and that's a good friend of mine has just moved into a new apartment, which is actually quite close to us. And I cross-stitched a little house, and I think I'm just going to make a little card for him, and if he wants to, he can stick it on his fridge or something like that. So it's just a little token thing for when we go around there for the first time. It's been really great as well that you guys have shared with me a lot of books that you've enjoyed. I've got a couple on my list now that I really want to read that you have recommended to me. This week I've been reading the Moomins, actually. The reason is, my son really loves the Moomins, just the characters, and there are children's books of the Moomins. But I actually find, this is going to be backwards again, but they're actually, okay, they're for children, but they're not really for children. They're for everybody. And the books, I mean, I would never read these books to Luca now. He would be totally bored. That it's more for adults, and they're nice little stories, and they have some of them have a message, some of them make you think, or some of them just make you smile. And I'm really enjoying it. I'm starting with the Moomin Papa ones. I've got a few, but I'm reading the Moomin Papa ones. I'm not really sure why, because actually I think I love Moomin Mama the most. But I'll get through all of them. My mom actually bought these for me for Christmas because she knows that Luca likes them so much. And I watched a documentary while I was over in England about the life of Tove Jansson. And she's such an interesting character as well. It made me really want to find out a little bit more about what she actually wrote, rather than just kind of looking at the pictures and so on. But yeah, I would thoroughly recommend them to people who like that kind of thing. But I hope, that you enjoyed the second episode, and please keep updated with my blog entries as well if it's your kind of thing. I write diary entries fairly regularly, and they're different in style. I mean, it depends what I've been thinking. I also post recipes, and because I love to cook, and yes, I hope that I can write them in a style that's because I mean they're all recipes that, cause I really, like I said, I don't follow recipes anymore. I tend to just make things up. And this is my first attempt at kind of sharing that with people. A lot of people ask me to write down my recipes for them, and I find that rather difficult. I'm much better at telling people or showing people how to do things, but I really want to share my cooking with people. And yeah, if you guys have any questions about it, or when you tried something and it went wrong, that would be terrible. But I mean, all of the recipes, I've cooked them many times, and I really would like to share them with you. And any feedback would be most welcome. So until next month, have a lovely February, a wonderful Valentine's Day, whatever you decide to do. And enjoy your knitting and crafting, and I look forward to next time. Goodbye.